ever dreamed of starting a remote SaaS company that could revolutionize the industry and make you a ton of money? Well, today I'm about to hand to you 8 killer ideas that you can steal from me right now. But wait, before you get too excited, there's a catch. These aren't just any ideas. They're the ones that I hear the most when I talk to founders and operators of remote teams. The vast majority of new startups in 2024 are being started remotely. I see estimates of between 55 and 86% from the various smart people that I talk to. This is the technology stack you want to be a part of in the next decade. Let's get into it. But before we dive into this, let's lay down some ground rules. Don't just grab one of these ideas and run with it because you think I'm so smart. P.S. If you actually do that, I'll be terrified / honored that you just do that because you think a random guy on the internet told you to do it. Thank you. But here's what you really need to consider. Are you ready to commit? Ask yourself, are you ready to fall in love with this idea? This isn't a fling. It's a long-term relationship. Are you willing to spend 5, 10, 15 years nurturing it? Because building a successful SaaS company takes time, dedication, and resilience. Make sure you're passionate about it. Also, do you have the right network and resources to get traction? For example, if your email list is filled with HR professionals, maybe building an AI company isn't the smartest move. Leverage your existing connections and expertise to give your idea the best chance of success. Also, I can't help you with these ideas, nor can I fund them, but there are some fantastic funds out there like Remote First Capital, which started at Running Remote, by the way, that might be able to assist you. Look for specialized funds that align with your vision and needs, or just go bootstrapped like I usually do, which I personally think is the best way to do it, but it's totally up to you. All right, let's light this candle. By the way, my name is Liam Martin. I'm co-founder of multiple remote first companies with hundreds of employees and an 8-figure revenue run rate to boot. Plus, I wrote this particular book, which I am very, very proud of. And so I know what I'm talking about. Number 1, let's talk about remote HRIS tools. Nobody has built a tool specifically for remote companies. So let's start with what an HRIS or Human Resource Information System does. It's essentially a backbone of your HR operations, handling everything from payroll to performance reviews. And there are lots of them out on the internet. Like I've seen probably about 27 that I track individually from a person that works in the company that tracks all of these things. And they're anywhere from like $5 million ARR to $34 billion ARR. I'm looking at you, SAP. They are ridiculously large, but none of them have actually been built specifically for a remote team. So here are the features that I would include in a remote HRIS tool. Feature number 1, I would remove job roles and location from the application process to eliminate bias. This has been a big problem for us where even inside of our particular tool that we use, which is Bamboo HR, you can't actually have remote as the only category. You have to have a location plus remote. And there's a lot of other HRS tools that don't seem to have this type of functionality, which just kind of sucks because we're remote. We're not actually in New York and remote. We are just remote and no one has this right now. Feature number 2, integrate video conferencing and live chat directly into the app for seamless hiring and onboarding. This is something that it would be great for me to actually look at the previous interviews for a particular candidate before I jumped in with them, and none of that documentation is actually in one place because none of them are thinking about only interviewing people through video, which you do if you work inside a remote company. I'd love to be able to see that. Feature number 3, performance and productivity tracking. So I want to be able to analyze tool usage and correlate it with outcomes and OKRs. So I want to be able to integrate my HR data with my Asana data or my GitLab data or my Trello data or my CRM data. And no one currently does that at this point. It's basically just HR data and it sits as its own island. I think that's kind of stupid because it would be great to be able to see if there's any correlations between particular activities inside of HR tools and the activities that people do in their work. Feature number 4, virtual and on-premise team building planners. I want to build a sense of well-being and track it with an ENPS metric. No one really does this virtually, and it's also a big problem that I see. No one's really executing on this, and I'd love to be able to see that version of ENPS presented inside of some type of HR tool. Feature number 5 is global EOR or employer of record integrations with services like remote.com, Deal, and Oyster. There are some that actually have 1 integration or 2 integrations, but no one actually has like the 66 that are currently existing in the ecosystem. And if you were running a remote tool, you would obviously have a remote EOR tool functionality or integration inside of your app. No one really does that at this point. I think think out of the, as I said, the dozens of HR tools that I currently see, there are very, very few that actually have that functionality for just even one app, let alone 10 or 20. Feature number 6, I want to import external tools to correlate data with outcomes. For instance, HubSpot CRM data correlating with sales success. This kind of just connects to my previous desire of just having various outcomes, but specifically if I can apply my like HubSpot data or my marketing platform data specifically from employees to be able to see how effective they are at various actions, I could see like, hey, if I made someone a manager, they're 10% more productive. Or if someone is only working night shift, they're 20% less productive. I'd love to be able to see that type of data. We don't currently see it inside of any HR tools. And the last feature that I really want, feature number 7, is virtual job offboarding. I want to be able to ensure a secure handover of passwords and equipment, even in remote locations. Like we had a problem where we had someone in South America. We ended up figuring out that a laptop was not going to be given back to us because this guy was owing a whole bunch of money to some pretty bad characters, and we actually had to hire a team to go in and get the laptop. Not because we didn't want, we didn't really care about the laptop. What we cared about is the data that was on the laptop, which was much more valuable than the actual laptop itself. So having a system to be able to facilitate that is, in my opinion, critical. So the second product that I'd love to be able to see is a remote worker health app. I want to be able to ask questions like, does working out boost productivity? I'd love to pay for my employees to work out if it improves their overall mental and physical well-being. And I want to be able to collect data connecting health metrics to productivity to gamify fitness tracking and see the impact on your workforce. I know that that may sound weird to a lot of people, but at least in our company culture, we want to be able to make sure that people are as healthy and happy as humanly possible. And if they're interested in doing it as an opt-in type of process, I'd love to be able to see that data, because I'd love to be able to go back and see quantifiably, hey, people go doing exercise or people getting a really nutritious lunch sent to them in the middle of the workday actually produces a positive ROI for them. Number 3, I'd love to be able to see process documentation on autopilot using AI. One of the biggest hurdles to asynchronous work is the lack of easily accessible and up-to-date processes. Imagine an app that analyzes your tools like Asana, Slack, and email to automatically build and update your processes. For example, ask about your PTO policy and it literally pulls from emails and HR tools to give you a precise answer. I'm looking for this. There's a couple companies out there like Slight.com that does this, but I'd love to be able to see 5 or 6 more, because I think this is going to be the next generation of process documentation. Next one I'd like to be able to take a look at is remote work security. So I want to be able to ensure that your employees are working securely to maintain certifications like HIPAA, SOC 2, and PCI compliance. Think of a VPN tailored for remote work with features like real-time terminal shutdowns, site approval lists, and mandatory 2-factor authentication. This isn't just a VPN, but it's a fortress for remote work so that you actually say, yes, all of our team members are actually compliant and we can be SOC 2, HIPAA, or PCI compliant. I just had a video a couple weeks ago talking about how FINRA is forcing all of their employees, their banking employees, back into the office because they don't believe that they're PCI compliant. This particular tool would solve that problem. Fifth thing I'd love to be able to see people build is a remote team dashboard. In my opinion, I'm really wondering like how many tasks are actually completed, who's stuck at a particular task, who needs more work, help. Current project management system tools, they don't actually give you real-time insights. I want to be able to have a dashboard that shows task progress, identifies bottlenecks, and helps managers actually assist their teams without constant check-ins. Less reporting equals more work, at least in my opinion. And when you think about how asynchronous work just is the operating system for remote work success, being able to have a real-time dashboard so I can focus on the people that are having trouble as opposed to focusing on the people that aren't is going to be a net positive for everyone. Next, I want to be able to talk about virtual office space, but for asynchronous communication. Many virtual office tools focus on mimicking physical offices as an example, but they miss the point of actual remote work. Build tools that enhance asynchronous communication. And this could be project timelines, shared workspaces for documents, or even a VR interface that emphasizes emphasizes asynchronous interactions over constant real-time meetings. I mean, there could be a tool that could do this in a really meaningful way, but right now, nothing really exists that I see, and I'd love to be able to see that pop up in the next couple months to hopefully years. The seventh idea that I've got, let's work on a remote collaboration and creativity tool. In my opinion, creativity doesn't actually happen in scheduled meetings. You need to be able to create a tool that allows for spontaneous brainstorming sessions, whiteboard collaborations, and creative discussions, all stored and accessible asynchronously. So think about it in this context, like let's say that I have a really cool idea and then I can then add that particular video content to someone else's cool video content that exists on the same whiteboard. And then you could actually integrate an AI to analyze all of those different pieces of information and come up with a collaborative result. So person one comes in and says, I've got this crazy idea. Then person two adds their idea to that particular whiteboard, or person three adds their idea, person four adds their idea, and then an AI actually looks at all of this and says, this is what you guys are all trying to do. Let's build this out and get this project happening. And number 8 is I'd love to be able to see some personalized learning and development platforms specifically for remote workers. You see, remote workers, they often miss out on career development opportunities, and I want to be able to build a platform that offers personalized learning paths. You can have tracks, skill development, and provide specific mentorship matching. I want to be able to also use AI to be able to recommend courses and training based on individual career goals and performance metrics. I think this is really cool when you think about mentorship and not necessarily teaching. So I think that AIs will actually be teaching us in the future because they'll be able to adjust to our particular learning style and create a custom learning program just for us. But then we have mentors that we can pull in when the AI thinks, hey, you know what? I need to be able to talk about inter-office dynamics, or I really want to be able to figure out how to build this particular idea out in a bigger way. Then I can bring in a mentor to be able to work with this person, but the AI would be able to identify that for that particular learner and match that learner with that particular individual. In the second section of this, I want to be able to focus on ideas to avoid because I want to be able to tell people what they should not be building, because there are a lot of people that are building stuff right now that's like a carbon copy of the last 87 companies that have popped up in the last year that are doing this same thing, and I would honestly like it to stop. So in my opinion, don't waste your time on the following things. Number 1, employer of record companies. EOR services, we've had enough of those. There are EOR services for absolutely everything. Companies like Deal and Oyster and Papaya and Remote.com and Multiplier and Rippling and Globalization Partners. They have flooded the market. There are literally dozens of these companies, and most of them were started in the last 3 years. The space is oversaturated, at least in my opinion, and everyone's targeting the same audience. I know because the vast majority of those people come to running remote, and all of those EORs are there, by the way. Please keep coming, EORs. This is not a comment on you guys who are already there. I'm talking about the guys that are trying to get into this space. So if you're thinking about building an EOR, stop. Stop doing it. Think about the years that you'll be spending doing something that's already oversaturated and heavily competed on, at least in my opinion. I would much rather see you channel your efforts into something more unique and innovative. Number 2, virtual space companies. I mean, I know that Zoom is a massive, massive company. In fact, it's the 34th largest SaaS product in the world. But there are dozens of companies trying to take virtual spaces to the next level with virtual water coolers, Slack extensions, and VR interfaces. The big problem, they're all based on the flawed premise that more synchronous communication improves remote work, and it does not. In fact, it often does the opposite. Synchronous communication can disrupt workflows and reduce efficiency. Instead, focus on tools that enhance asynchronous communication and truly support remote work. Perfect example of this is Fellow.app. I love that tool because it is entirely focused on making meetings more efficient, and sometimes more efficient means less of them in order to actually get everyone more productive. And the last one, I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for this, is project management tools. I know every time someone says this, a new Notion or Monday.com pops up and makes $1 bazillion. But here's the thing, they all do the same damn thing. Maybe it's just me, but I'm not very passionate about project management startups because the market is so absolutely crowded. If you're going to build a project management tool, make sure it's something you genuinely love and is genuinely new and innovative. This is a project that will probably consume a decade of your life at minimum. So you want to be able to make sure that this is something that you're proud of at the end of the day and that it stands out in a sea of similar products, at least in my opinion. So if any of these ideas resonate with you, or if you know someone already working on them, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. And remember, choose an idea you're ready to commit to for the long haul. That's how you build something truly impactful. Other than that, I hope that you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next one. If you've gotten to this point in the video, I think you should probably subscribe to this YouTube channel. It's free, unlike most other things in life, and it would bring me happiness and joy. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one.